The Nintendo 3DS is 8 years old. My god, it seems like yesterday that I got a 3DS. So anyway, today guys, I want to do something a little different. Normally I add a lot of B-roll. I have to put a lot of cuts in my videos because I constantly stutter, which you'll probably be able to tell in this video. But I'm going to attempt to post it without editing it. So if I stutter, I might be a little embarrassed, but I'm going to just do something a little different. You guys will get to know me a little better. So today I want to talk about the 3DS, and why am I doing this no cut, no editing video? Because I'm actually in Florida right now as this video posts, and I figured, hell, why not do something a little different while I'm not in town? So I have it scheduled. I'm in Florida on my family vacation. So anyway, let's talk about the 3DS. My earliest memory with the 3DS, actually that makes it sound like it came out when I was like a baby. No, my favorite memory with the 3DS has got to be replaying Ocarina of Time, and that was when I got the 3DS. So I got it around launch. It wasn't at launch. It was a little bit after that, and it was a little bit before. It was probably like 3 or 4 months before they cut the price like in half, which I was pretty upset about. But at least I got all those free games. But anyway, I'll get back to that in a second. So I get Ocarina of Time. I replay through it. If you watch this channel, then you know that Ocarina of Time is probably my favorite game of all time. It's just so good. And if I ever recommend a Zelda game to anyone, it's definitely the 3DS version of Ocarina of Time. Now I do wish though that the 3DS version would just come to Switch, up-res to HD. They don't have to do a whole bunch to it. I just want to be able to play it on the latest hardware in HD. That's all, just come on Nintendo, just let it happen. So anyway, got Ocarina of Time, loved it. A little bit after that, I got Resident Evil The Mercenaries 3D. This is a game that not a lot of people talk about, but that I spent an ungodly amount of time playing. Like, I played the hell out of this game. And I just love the Resident Evil series, so just seeing all those characters again was really awesome. And the gameplay was really similar to Resident Evil 4 and 5, which I love their gameplay. You can't walk and shoot. I think you could in Mercenaries. I think you could step and walk and shoot. If you like held down the L button, you could walk and aim. I don't remember if that was just in Revelations, but I'm pretty sure you could like slowly walk while you aim. But yeah, and I thought that was a great inclusion. I still feel like Resident Evil is the most scary when you can barely move while you're shooting, and the Resident Evil 2 remake did that, which was just perfect. But anyway, yeah, I unlocked all the characters. I unlocked the ability to use any of the characters' move sets, or not move sets, but like they're like guns and stuff with another character. I did everything possible in that game, and no one talks about it, and it's literally like one of my favorite 3DS games. Like, shooting people in the face just never really got old. Out of like, I think I spent over 50 hours with that game in my 3DS clock timer thing. I checked it out, and like which games I played the most. Of course, that was up there with Ocarina of Time, and the number one, obviously, Animal Crossing, which I'll get to in a second. But anyway, before I get to Animal Crossing, one of the craziest and most idiotic things I ever did, and I still regret this to this day. I'm just a freaking idiot, like seriously. So I go to upgrade for the new, or not the new 3DS, the 3DS XL, whenever that came out. And I was really excited. I thought it was really cool. I go into GameStop, and I want to transfer over all of my normal 3DS stuff to the 3DS XL. And actually, my heater just turned on. I have to go shut that off. But no cuts, no edits. I'm shutting it off and I'm coming back. I promise. Okay. Sorry about that. Anyway, so I take my 3DS into GameStop and I tell them, hey, I just want to upgrade. I think that like you could get like a deal on it. And they tell me that their Wi-Fi is down, so I can't transfer everything over unless I have like a little Wi-Fi thing that you can carry like around with you, which was really popular during that time. It's not very popular anymore. And I actually did have a Wi-Fi thing. It's called Clear. I don't know if it's still around, but I had one, and I left it in the car. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I remember my girlfriend at the time, she's my wife now, she was in a really big hurry because she had to like do something later that day. And I was like, I don't want to leave this mall without getting a 3DS XL. Like, I'm holding it in my hands, and I'm like, I want to buy this right now. So the guy says I can transfer everything over, but I'm like, then I'd have to run out to the card, had to get the Wi-Fi thing, then we'd have to wait for it to download. And I was an idiot, and I was like, you know, I don't really play those old games on my 3DS, so I guess it's not really that big of a deal if I get rid of them all. I mean, I'm sure they'll be available to download sooner or later, so I'll just rebuy them. And then I don't think they were all, like, that whole list of games was ever, like, available to re-download on 3DS, but I didn't actually end up downloading any of them except, like, Mario 1 and 3. But I lost all 20 of those games. I believe there was 20. I lost all of them. And all because I wanted to upgrade at that very second. I could have come back the next day and just upgraded and transferred everything over, and everything would have been fine. And that I actually wasn't that upset about. It's not really that big a deal. You can play them games on a bunch of devices. I still wish I had them, but it was the thing that really torn me was none of my times for how long I played games was in the new 3DS. So I was like, crap, I really liked looking at those stats. I love looking at those stats. So I put in all those games again and left my 3DS on until they were to the time limit that they were at on my old time one thing, and I couldn't really think of what exactly they were. I remember Zelda was around 50, Animal Crossing was around 90, but I literally left them on for days at a time to catch them all back up, but I didn't actually get through them all. They were all never the same, and all of my history of all the times I played on my old 3DS was gone. And, this is a pretty pointless story, and I'm starting to feel dumb even telling it, but I don't know. These are just my 3DS memories, alright? So yeah, after all that, Animal Crossing comes out, and I'm just absolutely in love with that game. And not only did I love it, but my wife actually loves it. She did not really own any handheld gaming systems at the time. She used to have a DS Lite back when she was younger, but she actually went out and bought a 3DS to play Animal Crossing. And she's the type of girl who will buy something and then she won't ever touch it. But she actually did. She played so much Animal Crossing. We both played a lot. I remember we were like, hey, do you want to go out tonight or do you want to sit inside and just play Animal Crossing? And we literally sat on the couch, played Animal Crossing. And this is before we had kids. I guess that's what you do when you don't have kids. You actually have time to just sit around and do nothing. But yeah, she loved it, and I loved it, and we just had a blast with it. And then she also ended up playing Resident Evil Revelations, which is another game I want to talk about. She loved that game, and I actually never saw her, still to this day. She's not a very big gamer, but she plays every now and then. She really got into Resident Evil Revelations, and I was like, wow, she's loved it, and I barely helped her with anything. I think I helped her with the swimming sections. Those parts are super stressful and kind of hard, so I helped her with those. But she did everything else, all the puzzles, all that stuff. And keep in mind, she doesn't play games very often, let alone action, adventure, horror games like that. So just seeing her in love with Animal Crossing, Resident Evil Revelations, it just really made me realize, wow, the 3DS is a great platform that has a bunch of different variety of games. Those games are wildly different too. And now that I'm thinking about it, super different. And yeah, she loved them, and it was really awesome seeing her get into that. And then she didn't really she loved Resident Evil Revelations so much that she played the second one, and me and her both agree the second one's not nearly as good as the first one. And sadly, the second one wasn't on 3DS. But yeah, aside from that, for me, I love Resident Evil Revelations, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, of course, Resident Evil Mercenaries, and I had some other games that I played so much that I can't even remember what they are at the moment. I played Kid Icarus, I really like that, the Star Fox remake, all that stuff. I was mostly really into the 3DS really early in its life cycle. Like after I got it, I was buying a bunch of games on the eShop, and I was buying a bunch of physical games at the store. And then a few years into the 3DS, I just started to fall off of it. I didn't really like the hardware as much. 3 years after playing it, because I was playing my Vita, I was playing on my TV. The resolution on those things were so much better than the 3DS, which is why I'm surprised 8 years later it's still getting support. Of course, it's finally dying down with, I don't think Nintendo has any other games coming out on it, but it's just crazy that hardware that you could tell Nintendo made, because they're one of they're one of the few companies that typically makes money on hardware and not just software. Like Sony and Microsoft, they typically sell hardware at a loss because they know they're going to make all the money back with software. And Nintendo, they're smart with their platforms. They make them cheap, which they're still durable, but you can tell that they cut the corners a little bit. With the 3DS, the resolution was pretty bad, and I wish I had some other things like a right joystick on the first iteration of it. And we still never got there. There was a weird nub on the new 3DS, and I was going to get a new 3DS, and I ended up skipping out on it because I was waiting for the big, exclusive, awesome games for it, and we only got a few that I wasn't really super interested in playing with Xenoblade and stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much my history. I was sort of a super big fan of it in the very beginning, and I played it so much. I even watched Netflix on this thing so much. And this was before I had a smartphone, I think. Actually, it was around the same time that I got my first iPhone and the 3DS. But I just remember thinking it was so cool that I could watch Netflix on my 3DS. And I used to take it to work with me. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to tell with Resident Evil Revelations, I literally played that whole game at my old job at 7-Eleven in the freezer. I played it from beginning to end in the freezer, sitting like in the back hiding. I just remember being super cold. I remember having headphones on, and not only was the game scary, but I was in a super cold setting, and my boss could walk in the door at any second. So I was always on edge. I kept like looking like through the glass, like, is she coming? And just the whole experience is like super, like, I'll never forget it because it was the outside world that was scary and the game that was scary. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about the 3DS. That's pretty much all of my favorite stories with it. But I want to know which stories are your guys' favorites. So here's my ending spiel that I always do. I usually add a cut here. But I'm surprised I did pretty good at, I think I talked 13 minutes without a cut. That is absolutely unheard of for me. Typically, I last about 13 seconds before I mess up. And, you know, I did mess up a little bit in here. And you'll actually be able to see for once how strange my stuttering is. I stutter very odd, and I actually wanted to make a video about that one day, but I'm not sure how I would angle it. I want to make a video like what it's like to stutter and be and be a YouTuber. Of course, I'm stuttering right when I'm talking about stuttering, which it always happens. I don't know why, but yeah, that's all I got to say. I loved the 3DS. I still love it. You know, I have a ton of memories with it. But it's gone now. It's on to the Switch. Let's switch it up. It's gonna be great. There's hopefully 2 new Switches on the way. If that's happening, 2, not 4. That's really exciting. I already made a video about that, and I'll actually show it up on the screen right now. So that's all I got to say today, guys. Let me know your 3DS memories down in the comment section below, and let me know what you think of this non-editing new thing I did. So I'll talk to you guys later.